In this video, we'll cover the reporting features built inside the new Turnitin Clarity tool. So I'm in Canvas assignments right now looking at my assignments. I know this one right here is using Turnitin Clarity, so this will show us the student report. So I can just click on the title and it will automatically load up the student submission screens. This is just kind of a basic overview screen, and we can drill into each student individually for more specifics. Before I dig into this, some of you might be wondering about SpeedGrader. SpeedGrader is not exactly compatible with Turnitin Clarity. As you can see on the screen, we can get there, but we don't get a preview of the student work, and we don't see any data from Turnitin, making SpeedGrader far from useful in this situation. So if you're planning to use Turnitin Clarity, know that you'll need to do all your grading from this screen because that's where you're going to see what you need to see. So starting at the top, it says student submissions, and then below that is the title of your assignment with a little drop down. You can click on that, and that'll expand the settings you have currently set and the instructions that are in there. If you need to edit those, you can go in the upper right and click on Edit Setting. In that previous video, I talked about how to make all those setting changes. So I'm going to move away from this for now. Then we go down into your submission list. You have your students listed on the left, their status on whether they've submitted or not with a time. Then we have the grade column, whether you've given them a grade or not. And then you can click on that and it'll pop up a new tab. We can start looking at reports and grading. I'm not going to do that just yet because I'm going to continue moving through the columns. Briefly, after the students have submitted, Turnitin will automatically run the similarity report and you will get a percentage of that similarity. So we can see that Jeffrey has a 0% similarity report, and my paper got a 20% similarity report. So I've copied 20% of my paper. You can also click on this and it'll jump you right to the similarity report so you can see those highlights about what was or was not copied. Moving on to the right, we have the AI writing column. Both of these papers are suspected to be 100% AI. And just as before, we'll click and we'll see highlighted areas about what is suspected and for what reasons. Next is flags. Flags is a new thing. As Clarity is watching the student, they might exhibit some behaviors that raise suspicion and raise some red flags. And we can click on that to see what are those flags and how do those exhibit themselves in the process. In the far right column, we can click on the three dots to expand our options. The biggest one to point out is grant extension. So rather than using the assign to box in the standard Canvas assignment to extend the due date for a specific student, you'll have to go here to grant an extension. Now we're going to drill into each of these students' papers. They exhibit different features, and so we're going to start off with Jeffrey. So underneath the student's name, you can see it says untitled. That is the title of their document. So I could click on that to jump to the student submission. I could click on the grade. I could click on similarity report, AI report, or flags. Any of these is going to jump you to that particular screen. For now, I'm going to jump you to the overall paper by clicking on the title of their document. For the most part, this tool should look familiar to you if you've used Turnitin Feedback Studio because it is essentially the same so far. So at the top, we have the grade box. I could input the grade now. You can see I've already input a 3 out of 100 because he copied his entire paper. For more advanced grading, I could use rubrics. For the sake of speed, I did not build a rubric for this video. So now we're going to look at how we can jump between the different reports. So the first one is our similarity report there. And on the right-hand side, it'll open up that panel. It'll break down the different copies that it's seeing and then highlight with color codes in the paper where it's seeing those similarities. This particular paper has 0 similarity. Nothing's been copied, so that's good. But if we move over into the middle one, AI writing, so we can see the whole paper has been highlighted as blue, as just straight up AI text. It might also highlight as purple if it's AI text that's been run through a different tool to make it seem like it's not AI. I need to point out that the language here is that it's likely AI generated text. The student could have written this by hand. They just happened to write like what seems like an AI would. So always acknowledge that you could have some false positives and some false negatives in this assessment. When we dig into the writing report here in a little bit, we can come up with some behaviors that can firm up our case to back this up. So back at the top, we're going to move on to the flags. This particular paper doesn't have any flags yet. We'll see some more later. So one of the common flags you might see here is that the student did a find and replace to swap out the normal English character ease with Cyrillic ease to fake out any AI detectors. Because once this has a Cyrillic E, it's no longer the word environmentally, it's some other word that the AI detector can't process. Lucky for us, if the student does do something like this, we would see it happen in action when we go to the writing report. So let's go there now. In the upper left, we're going to click on the gray button to go to writing report. If we need to go back to where we just were, we can just click on that Go to Reports and Feedback, and we can always swap between these two places. But we are in Writing Report right now. In the writing report, we have our student document there. On the right side, we have a panel that we can flip through different sorts of information. And on the bottom is a timeline like a video. It's going to automatically jump to the end because we want to see the student's final work. But we can scroll that blue line anywhere along there to see any iterations along the way. And we can also play it as a video to see what's happening. And you can speed that up because who wants to watch an hour-long writing process? So as the video is playing back the student's process, it's also going to jump between different information events that happen on the right side. We're currently looking at observations. It might seem like a lot of information happening at once, and it is. Just know that this panel is jumping around to events that are matching to that time in the paper's process. Okay, so let's start making sense of this writing report. So I'm going to start with the two flags. While watching the student, Turnitin noticed that the student was generating a lot of characters, but wasn't revising those characters very much, which, if you've ever written a paper before, you know is rather natural. Usually there's a lot of back and forth iteration, simply reworking a sentence over and over again, trying to get the language right. Turnitin did not see that happen on this paper, which seems suspicious. We can click the little arrow there to see some data breakdown. That leads us into the second flag on this paper, reliance on pasted text. It tells us that more than 40% of the total words came from pasting. The flags are there to grab your attention on some major concerning behaviors in the student's process. So now we'll move into observations. We can see the final word count, how much time the student spent overall writing, and how many writing sessions. So a session is when a student logs into the paper and is working, and then they leave the paper altogether. But this information should be rather illuminating for you. Does it make sense for on that assignment, the student only spent 22 minutes in one single session and got the whole paper done? Scrolling down in the observations, we will see the 9 pasted events. So these are events in time and they're ordered as such. So number 1 here is the first identified event in the timeline. So I can click on this first pasted event and it's going to jump me to that text in the student's paper, but also when it happened. So at that time, this was the only thing that existed on the paper. The first thing the student did was they got some pasted text and put it on the paper. Looking again at the right, we see that it's 25 pasted words that came from the Turnitin AI chatbot, but the student did change that text afterwards. So we could play the timeline and see what the student did to this pasted text. In contrast, if we scroll down to the events, so number 4, I'll click on it. You have a different state in the paper. Much further down on the timeline, we have 51 pasted words that the student did not end up changing at all. However, they copied and pasted them, that's how they left it on the paper. We don't know the source of that pasted text, which should raise further alarms. The student probably used some outside artificial intelligence, created some text, pasted it in, and made no effort to make it their own. This is academic dishonesty. So many of these pasted events will show that Turnitin AI was the source. That's because there is an AI chatbot that can be enabled in Turnitin Clarity, and we can see how the student was interacting with that chatbot. When you first click on the AI chat tab at the top, it's going to give you kind of a summary of how the student was using that chatbot. You can scroll down and you can see the full chat history. Both this summary and the chat history would suggest that the student was trying to get the chatbot to write most of the paper for it, gave up, and then went to an outside AI. Now remember, this is only the chat log from the Turnitin chatbot. If they went to an outside tool like ChatGPT, we have no idea what they were asking that tool, how or why. If you're an instructor that is open to the use of AI, this allows you to see how exactly the student was trying to leverage AI in the writing process without having to share a bunch of writing logs or videos or screenshots. It's all going to be provided right there. Okay, so I think I've seen everything I need to see and we're ready to grade. We'll just go up to the upper left again and click Reports and Feedback. At the very top, we have that grade button and we can apply the score. Just clicking away is enough to save it in there. So if I close that tab, so you may have just seen that automatically switch to the 5. I didn't click anything at all. We could also do resync grades if we're feeling like it's not updating. When we jump into the gradebook, we can also see that score has automatically been applied.